Rhode Island rental laws outline the rules in the state regarding lease agreements and evictions. We'll examine relevant laws for standard lease agreements, month-to-month lease agreements, and evictions. Standard lease agreement. A standard lease gives an overview of the terms between a landlord and tenant for the renting of property. A standard lease is commonly a one-year fixed period and is the most widely used rental contract. Month-to-month lease. A month-to-month lease, also called an at-will tenancy, is an agreement between a landlord and tenant that renews automatically every month and terminates upon notice by either party. In Rhode Island, notice must be provided a minimum of 30 days prior to termination as required by law. Required disclosures. In Rhode Island, the following disclosures are required to be included as part of the lease. Code violation. If the landlord is violating any building codes, the violations must be reported to the tenant. Landlord manager disclosure. The name and address of the owner or the person authorized to manage the property must be disclosed to the tenant. Landlord access. In Rhode Island, the landlord is required to provide at least 2 days' notice before entering their property for repairs or other non-emergency reasons, and may only enter the property at reasonable times. Security deposit laws. In Rhode Island, the maximum amount landlords can charge for security is 1 month's rent. The money must be returned to the tenant within 20 days of vacating. Eviction laws. There are 3 legally accepted causes for eviction in Rhode Island. 24-hour notice to quit illegal activity. If the tenant has engaged in illegal activity on the property, the landlord can issue a 24-hour notice to quit, which requires the tenant to vacate the premises within 24 hours. Non-payment of rent. If the tenant is late on rent, the landlord can issue a 5-day notice to pay or quit. This gives the tenant 5 days to pay the rent in full, along with any penalties, or vacate the property. This notice cannot be issued until the tenant is 15 days late on rent. Non-compliance. If the tenant breaks any portion of the lease other than late rent, the landlord may give the tenant 20 days to comply with the lease or vacate the property. If it is the tenant's second on the same violation in the last 6 months, the violation becomes incurable and the tenant must vacate within the 20-day time frame.